Hello, and thanks for joining us for the virtual Green Living Festival. We are the Earthways Center at the Missouri Botanical Garden, the sustainability division of a world-class garden that walks its sustainability talk. Green living, something that we can all do. And on these 3 days of the festival, June 6th, Green Living Day, June 9th, Energy Day, and June 11th, Naturescaping Day, we'll be featuring exhibitors who really embody the best of these kinds of practices and options in our community. Ameren, Missouri is our presenting sponsor. Thank you, Ameren, for supporting this event and helping us to bring it to the St. Louis community and beyond, since this is this year on the World Wide Web. Richard Lay is my guest today. He is the Vice President for Customer Relations with Bellefontaine Cemetery and Arboretum here in St. Louis. It is one of the most historic cemeteries in the country and is a leader in practices of green burial. So we'll learn a little bit about that today from Richard Lay. Rick Lay, it's good to see you, and thanks for joining us and representing Bellefontaine Cemetery in the Green Living Festival.
It's always great to see you, Jean. Thank you for the invitation, and we're honored to be a part of it.
So, dying and what happens to us when we die, what happens to our bodies, that's something that we don't necessarily want to think about or talk about, but the work of Bellefontaine is making that more sustainable and hopefully more supportive for families and individuals as well as for our planet. Why don't you say a little bit about that?
Well, the challenge for folks is we live green and we should be able to die green. We should go green, so to speak. And that's an opportunity that can happen for just any individual at Bellefontaine. We honor the landscape. We are a level 2 arboretum. We have very strong and powerful sustainability practices. So that needs to be an opportunity for folks to utilize those kind of green practices in their burial.
I'm going to ask you to show us some images of that from your files here in just a moment, Rick, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how this is possible and what prompted Bellefontaine to become, I know you are a national leader in the practices of green burial.
Well, that's true. We have been a national leader, and we're honored to be able to be that leader. We were early in the process. In fact, if you think about it, we were doing green burials before it was popular, before it even came along. As a current opportunity, it was often the practice in the Victorian era, where folks were wrapped in a shroud or a sheet or a plain pine box and just placed in the earth, and where the body naturally decayed.
So, Rick Lay, show us a little bit about what green burial looks like.
Well, it's a very comforting sort of a way of burial. You have a greater connectedness with your loved one. You get a sense of their presence where they're not in a metal box or a concrete vault that's separating you. This is our wicker casket, and it's actually on our green burial cart that we pull by hand from our chapel to the gravesite. And it's a very moving experience to hear the turn of the wheels and the footsteps as we make our way to the grave. And often the family's engaged in conversation, telling stories and connecting with their family member, walking alongside as are walking just behind this burial cart from the chapel to the grave site, or even from our entrance to the grave. We've had several people do that.
And of course, when people are walking through Bellefontaine Cemetery, the big trees and the historic monuments and some of the older parts of the cemetery, and then your native planting areas, your more natural areas, it's a beautiful place to be in procession with someone you love.
Yeah, the serenity and the of the whole experience is very comforting. It's a very unique, and once people experience it, maybe with a family member or with a friend, they want that same experience themselves.
Mm-hmm. Show us another image. Mm-hmm.
Well, this is one that I really enjoy, and our horticultural staff has been able to do this beautifully year round. As part of the green burial process, we put a bio layer, which is plant material. In this case, you can see it's flowers and it's holly and it's some greens and so on. And we put that plant material there to aid decomposition. And our horticultural staff just revels in being able to do these beautiful arrangements. All the plant material is caught on property. We don't have it shipped in from a florist. We do it all ourselves. And then once the shroud or wicker casket or plain pine box has been placed in the grave, we add some more plant material to the top, and we engage the family and friends that are there at the gravesite to participate by adding that green material, the flowers and plants, plant material to the top. And it again, part of that moving experience, part of that greater connectedness.
And you have one more slide, I think, to show us.
I do, and this is important to me because I'm extremely patriotic, and we're very much a cemetery that is, you know, we have veterans from every war that America has ever fought in, going back to the Revolutionary War. But this gentleman was very proud of his service to our country, as we are, and so he was able to have both a green burial with military honors. He's actually in a shroud underneath the American flag, and we were honored to be able to do a green burial for one of our veterans on his family lot.
Mm-hmm. So at the end of that ceremony, or as part of that ceremony, was the flag removed and then the individual's body lowered into the grave and then the flag folded in
Correct. Yeah, those Marines that are standing there folded the flag, and they told me that was their first green burial experience. But that's exactly what happened. They folded the flag, presented it to the family. The shroud was lowered into the gravesite, and then family members and friends placed the plant material on top of their loved one.
So all of the elements of dignity and ceremony and passage that are part of a burial, they're all in this without the concrete and the boxes and the hardscaping, if you will, is what it looks like to me.
Right. Oh, we've avoided putting a lot of harmful material in the ground, including embalming fluid. So it's back to the earth. It's back to the earth, and it's a wonderful, comforting, yet spiritual and connected experience.
Thank you for showing us these images, Rick. So, Rick Lay, when did Bellefontaine Cemetery when was it founded?
Oh, we were founded in 1849 by a group of St. Louis businessmen. We're a nonprofit cemetery. We are still operated the same way by a board of trustees, many of whom are actually almost all of whom have family members that are buried here. And so we were part of that rural cemetery movement, leading cemeteries to a rural community, which is really interesting because we're really only 5 minutes from the arch. But we were rural in 1849, and were so farsighted that we have 314 acres and we've only used about a third of it, a little over a third.
And what prompted your organization to engage in green burial? And I think you're like one of the leaders in that movement in the U.S., yes?
Yes, we are, certainly in the Midwest. And we've been part of the Green Burial Council for many, many years now. And we're really honored. We were actually the first in the area to be a part of the Green Burial Council. And we've encouraged others to join and be part of it, and they've done so. So we are encouraging the Green Initiative when it comes to burial throughout the country. And we are supporting those other cemeteries that that need advice, need suggestion, need to learn how you can establish a green burial section or how you can do green burials throughout the cemetery.
And do you also handle the other elements of a funeral? For example, you would be who a family would come to when a loved one passes away. Is that right?
Yeah, you can call us first and we can help with the entire process. Another part of our green initiatives is Flameless Cremation. I'm not going to get into all of that today, but it is 80% less energy than a traditional cremation. So it's very green. It's amazing how that process can reduce the emissions because you're not using, it's not a flame-based cremation. That's another one of our initiatives. But we can take care of a family from the time of death until the time of burial, and we're honored to be able to do that. We can function as a funeral home and funeral directors.
And the areas of Bellefontaine where the green burials take place, native landscaping is a big part of that, ecological landscaping, and it's not like a field of markers. It's quite different, yes?
No, it's a field of flowers. So we have a dedicated green burial area called Evergreen Meadow. And in Evergreen Meadow, there are no markers, there is no monumentation. Your location is identified via GPS. We bury the grave. The graves are further apart, which also aids decomposition. But that being said, you can have a green burial anywhere in Bellefontaine, and if you really want to have some kind of a memorial or marker, that can happen as well, but you can still have a green burial.
And if people would like to learn more about this whole process and what the options are, what would you suggest they do?
Well, I'd suggest a great starting place is to come to the cemetery. It's a beautiful spot, and I think seeing it is transformative. But you can also go to our website, bellefontainecemetery.org, and it is just packed with information. You go to go to plan, and then you move from planning to burial options. And under those burial options, you'll find a lot of information on green burial and other opportunities that we offer.
So the kind of process that one would go through in a more conventional or higher impact type of burial situation, only leading to what you're doing here.
Right.
Yeah. And Rick, I had the opportunity to visit the cemetery. In fact, I got a total VIP tour with your volunteer who is such an expert on the historical figures who are buried there and the kinds of plants that are being grown there. And I understand that in the era of COVID-19, people are coming just to walk and really enjoying the place that way.
That's true. These rural cemeteries, as they were called in the 1800s, were the first parks, the first public green space, so to speak. And people would come to visit their family, but they'd also come to get away from the city and to get away from the pollution and the hustle and bustle and the activity. It was a place of rest and of peace, and it still is. And you can actually walk our 14 miles of roads for a full hour and not run into anybody, which is good. And it's just a great way to get out and enjoy the weather when the weather's nice. But it's a great way to see, we have an amazing landscape with trees and shrubs and bushes, and right now, of course, a lot of color.
Mm-hmm. Well, Richard Lay, thank you very much for taking time to talk with us, and thanks so much to Bellefontaine Cemetery and Arboretum for being an exhibitor in the Green Living Festival again.
Well, we were honored to be part of the Green Living Festival and hope to be part of it in the years to come. Thank you so much, Jean, and thanks to the Missouri Botanical Garden and Green Living.
We call your place the other botanical garden, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Thanks, Rick Lay. I'm Jean Ponzi. Thanks for joining us for exhibitor interviews, for the workshops, for the panels, for the family and fun activities, and for exploring all the things that we're providing in the 2020 Green Living Festival, which is coming to you virtually this year. Thanks to our sponsor, presenting sponsor, Ameren, Missouri, and from all of us, the staff and volunteers of the Earthway Center at the Missouri Botanical Garden, try some of these sustainable St. Louis. Try some of these sustainable solutions. They can work for you, and they are a great wealth of resources that we have in our community. Green living, better living, we think.